This is the new Mercedes GLE, and it's a little bit like an American musical sitcom. You don't get it, do you? GLE, Glee, remember Glee? My intro jokes are getting worse and worse. Now, if you'd like me to stop them, just let me know in the comments box below and I will listen to you. Anyway, there is something slightly American about this German SUV. It does feel more American than its key competitors like the BMW X5 and the Audi Q7. Let's start this review by talking about the new GLE's design. This car may not be beautiful, but it has plenty of presence. Lots of shiny bits of trim, so there's shiny here, shiny there, shiny there. Yes, it's got lots of jingle jangle jewellery. It looks expensive and it also looks massive. For instance, as standard, you get 20-inch alloy wheels and they look kind of small. Thankfully, you can upgrade to 22 inches. Then there's more jingle jangle shininess along here, the roof bars and the running boards, and yeah, it all looks super tough. You know, if this car had a job, it'd be a bouncer at the Ritz. I like the front of it as well. Loads and loads of attitude, that huge Mercedes badge. I also like this pin effect grille. It's really, really cool, and there's more shiny bits down here. This looks like a car that is owned by someone who's rather wealthy. Hopefully it's as successful on the inside. So the design is quite nice, actually. I like the fact that you get this stitched fake leather on the dash. It feels natural to me. Don't know why you need real leather. You have it down here as well. Also, this open pore wood trim is really nice. It's better than like the shiny glossy trims that you get because they scratch way too easily. However, I'm a little bit disappointed by these vents. The ones in like lower down Mercedes, like the A-Class, I like these cool turbine design. This is just a little bit more meh. Though there is shiny bits about the place, and more shiny here, and more shiny here. Like the outside, then it's shiny, and some of the stuff you touch feels really expensive, like the metal window switches and the door handles. But then other bits, not so much. For instance, inside the actual door handle, which you will touch, some really cheap, nasty plastic. Scratchy down here. And look at this rear view mirror. I mean, it's awful. It's like out of some kind of Dacia or something. And this particular panel, it wobbles a bit. Yet this bit, the center console, is solid as a rock. Now, you do find that in Mercedes that they can look really good and parts are great, but other parts just don't feel as posh as, say, in a BMW X5. But generally, it is rather nice. And the thing that really dominates the interior anyway is this, look, this huge digital display. And that brings me on to this car's equipment list. But for that, we need to go into geek mode. Geek mode. As standard, the GLE gets this huge infotainment screen with inbuilt satellite navigation and a digital driver's display, which is just glorious. It also gets the AMG line styling body kit, which is very aggressive, plus high-performance headlights with high beam assist. There's black Napa leather seats too, and the fronts are heated. Then there's a reversing camera, which is very handy, and lots of safety kit to prevent you having an accident in the first place, such as auto emergency braking. On the entry-level 300D version of the GLE, you can get the 7-seat equipment line package for £2,000, and it includes 4-zone climate control instead of the normal 2, and a third row of seats. However, this pack does come as standard on all higher levels of GLE. Being a Mercedes, there are lots of option packs available, such as the premium equipment line for over £4,000, which includes a panoramic glass sunroof, a wonderful Bumister sound system, and a not so wonderful air freshener system. Pooh. Then there's a Technology Plus pack, which includes this rather bright and lovely heads-up display and augmented reality for the satellite navigation system. That uses a live camera feed from the front of the vehicle, and it shows that image on the screen inside the car and superimposes graphic directions over it so you never get lost. I absolutely bloody love it. Finally, for £1,700 you can get the Driving Assistance Pack, which includes an automatic cruise control to keep you a safe distance from the car in front, and it'll even steer to keep you in lane. Though you shouldn't drive with your hands off the wheel, because that's dangerous. Look, Mum, no hands. Way! Dangerous. Oh. Right, that's enough of that. Far too much information to remember. Let's continue with the review by critiquing this car's infotainment system. The left-hand screen controls all the major infotainment functions, and you can operate it using the trackpad and shortcut buttons between the two front seats. Or you can use the control button on the left side of the steering wheel, or voice commands, though this method is limited, and the system doesn't always understand what you're saying, especially if you're a Midlander like me. Now, you can just press the display itself, as it works as a touch screen, though this is harder to do while you're driving. The screen itself, though, is super sharp. very bright and reasonably responsive, though the mapping doesn't scale as quick as most smartphones. The menus are, however, super easy to find, and the inbuilt satellite navigation system dead simple to operate, while inputting destinations and waypoints is pretty quick. You also get live traffic information, but it's just not as good as that you get with Waze or Google Maps, which you can use from your phone if you have the tech pack fitted to the car, though Apple CarPlay and Android Auto don't fill the screen, so it looks a little bit odd when you're using it. Then there's the second screen and the digital dials. They're extremely clear, and you navigate through them using the controls on the right hand side of the steering wheel. You can see everything from the assistance systems to the telephone, navigation, trip information, radio, media and service information all on this one screen. It's really, really good. And you can choose between 4 different display styles. I think I prefer the classic one. Overall, I really like Mercedes' latest infotainment system. I think it's very, very good. It is right up there with the very best. Right up there, believe it or not, with BMW's iDrive. Now though, we need to talk about the connectivity. So underneath here, you have 2 USB-C charging points there. How very modern. And of course, you can get wireless charging for your mobile phone. Then underneath here, there's another USB-C socket and a little cradle where you can hold your mobile phone, and some storage area as well. Speaking of storage areas, the glove box is only okay because some of it's taken up by this air freshener. Lovely. There are a couple of cup holders here, and you might be thinking, well, what happens? Look, that's fine for a cup of coffee, but that's all a bit loose, and yeah, that's just going to fall over. Don't you worry, Mercedes have thought about that. You just press that button and these little grippers hold it nice and tight. And then the door bins are massive, huge. You can put loads of stuff in those door bins. The only thing is that they're not lined like they are in some cars, so things might rattle about a little bit in there. And generally, like, the layout is very, very good in this car. I like the fact you have a little thing to rest your hand on when you're using the infotainment system. That's really nice. Now, some people might confuse that for the gear selector and start pulling on it, going, why won't I get it in drive? That's because Mercedes has the gear selector up here on the steering wheel, which is very American, but also very sensible, because you can just flick from drive, park and reverse, dead simple, when your hands are on the wheel. Speaking of which, driving position, very, very nice. Lots of adjustment in the steering wheel, but it moves with all the urgency of an octogenarian. Very slow and steady. And there's lots of adjustment in the seat. Now, I was reaching down there because that's where it is on most cars, which is quite fiddly. It's actually much better up here. Much easier to use and get to, and you can even alter the headrest electrically and extend the base out as well. Don't worry, you'll soon get used to it. And yeah, even if you're small, you can jack it up quite high so you can see over this dash, because the dash is relatively high. Now, let's hop out of the car and into the back seats. So, first of all, let's explore the knee room. That's knee room explored, and it's very, very generous. Now, if you need to stretch out, if the person in front of you has their seat in the lowest position, you can't quite squeeze your feet under their chair, but if they raise it up a bit, you can. In terms of headroom, no complaints at all about that. This car has a glass roof. Normally that reduces the headroom, but doesn't matter here, there's loads of it. Now, as standard, the GLE is a 5-seater, but you can get a 7-seater upgrade. If you do that, you get electrical operation of this middle row of seats. So you can slide them forwards, you can slide them backwards, you can make them more upright or less upright and do the headrest. Basically, you can do pretty much what you can with the front seats, and it is then super, super comfy. You also have massive windows, a decent window line. It's not too high so kids can see out. All very nice. If you need to carry 3 people at once in the back, completely doable. So this middle seat isn't too bad. Even though it's not an individual chair, it's all right. There's a bit of a hump in the floor, and it's not kind of wide enough to put your feet on. The cutaways aren't great either. So actually, if you've got 3 in the back at once, the foot space isn't the best for this kind of car. Also, the body isn't the widest, so there does just seem more space to carry 3 people across the back in one go in an Audi Q7. It's just a little bit better for that, especially as the Audi has individual chairs, so you get 3 individual chairs here in the middle row. Most of the time anyway, you're going to be having 2 people in the back here, and if you do, you can just fold out the armrest, and it does have a little bit of storage and some funky little cup holders. Look at these, the way you operate and you fold that out. They're pretty cool. And the door bins, yeah, they're a good size. Totally nailed that. You've also got some charging points there for 2 mobile devices and places to store them, though I think that was originally intended to be an ashtray, or maybe it is in other markets. There's also some storage here on the seat backs. All very good. Now, when it comes to fitting a child seat, access to the rear seats is very good thanks to the wide door openings, and you won't need to adjust the front seats in order to get the seat and base behind. You get at the Isofix anchor points by lifting up some seat covers. It's not the easiest system because you have to do that while trying to juggle the seat into place, but it's not too bad. Also, if you fit 2 child seats in the back of the car, you will still just about have enough space between them for an adult to sit on short journeys. Right, what I'm going to do now is show you what it's like in the 3rd row if you specify the £2,000 7-seat equipment line, which also includes the 4-zone climate control. So to get in the very back, it's electrically operated, the seat, you press that button and the seat will move forward to give you access, but it takes forever and ever. Come on, it's done. Right, ow, I just hurt my back, chapped it on there getting in. So, first annoying thing is this. Right, I'm in the back, I'm kind of happy. I want to pull the seat back, so once again I'll do it electrically. I have to keep my hand on it. I think this is for safety reasons, so you don't squish your foot. It doesn't actually go back to where it was. The person who then sits here has to decide where they want it by using the controls on the door, which I can't now reach. Actually, and if you see there, if they leave it like this, they're not going to have much leg room, so they are going to want to slide it back to a similar position that this is in. Let me just fold this down, because yes, you can fold this chair down for through loading, but it will let me show you what it's like for rear space back here, because I have to shuffle over here. First of all, headroom, that ain't great, but knee room, it's not good. But the worst thing is foot space. The way the mechanism is for this middle row just means there's no foot room at all. I think kids will even find it cramped back here. Yeah, they do have a couple of cup holders there and USB charging points, but that's not going to make up for the fact that it's not very nice in the back of this car. If you want to carry 7 people in your SUV, you need to look at something like a Land Rover Discovery. This seat mechanism actually is a bit of an arse, to say the least. Let's put this back and let me get out. Come on, I just want to get out of here now. Look, see, it's not moving back into its place. I have to do this on the door. I'm so bored, I think I'm just going to die from it. Right, let's do the boot. Hopefully this isn't going to be so stressful, but I have my doubts. So in 7-seater mode, you haven't got much space in the boot. Oh yes, and you have a nice scuff plate as well, so you don't scratch things as you're moving items in and out. Now, I want to show you what it's like in 5-seater mode, but oh no, those seats are too far back. Right, what I have to do is move the bases forward, so I'm going to go back round here. Bear with me, people, bear with me. So yes, I'm pressing the button on the door to move it forward just a touch. Come on, move forward. And of course I've got to do the one over this side as well. Really? Imagine trying to do this when you're trying to get away on holiday or something like that and you've got a car full of angry kids. Hopefully that's forward enough. Now, please go down. Yes. And then you have, look, a large boot area. So the capacity may be less than a Volkswagen Touareg, but it's slightly more than a BMW X5. Oh yeah, look, nice and flat. And right, if you want to carry really big things, then you want to fold down this middle row, then you do it electrically. Yes, they have to come back to their position so that they can think about going down. Come on, there we go. Yeah, on the 5-seater version, you don't have any of this faff because the seats are just operated on cables. So you can just pull a cable and it'll just lower it. Next one, moving back and down, going down. Then we have this flat load area, which is actually quite good. I think I'm going to have a lie down. I'm going to just have a break. With all the GLE's rear seats folded, there's a huge amount of space. So enough room for 3 large boxes, 15 small boxes, and a further 2 small suitcases. You can also fit a bike inside without having to take a wheel off. And the GLE's large opening and flat floor make it a doddle to get everything inside. With the middle row of seats in place, there's room for large and 2 small suitcases under the load cover, or you'll easily get a set of golf clubs plus a pushchair in there all together. Then, if you have the 7 seats in place, you'll be able to squeeze in a couple of small suitcases in side by side, but only just. So yeah, this car may be impressive in what it can actually carry, but messing around with those seats in this 7-seater model is an absolute nightmare. And that brings me on to 5 other annoying things about the Mercedes GLE. If you have bottles in the door bin, it's a little bit awkward to get at the boot release or the button for the tow hitch. So you're going to have to get them out of the way. These running boards do look pretty cool, but they just extend out a little bit too far. It means that whenever you're getting it in or out, you're always rubbing the backs of your trousers over them and they'll get dirty, and so will your trousers, and oh my God, you're going to have to wash your clothes more often than you planned. These are some of the most convincing fake exhausts I have ever seen, but they will not fool the carwow stick of truth. Both me and the stick are thoroughly disgusted by these. As well as operating the voice commands by pressing a button, you can activate it by saying the car's brand name. That does mean that the system just chimes in if ever you mention the word Mercedes.
How can I help you?
And that happens, but then she doesn't do anything that you ask, and she always interrupts you. Turn the temperature down. Will it do it? Come on.
Can you say that again, please?
It never understands you or does what you ask. It's annoying! You have to be really sensitive and gentle with the fuel filler cap, because if you try to do it too hard, it just won't shut every time. Thankfully, this car has plenty of cool features to help make up for all this. Here's 5. When you turn up the temperature on the climate control, the ambient lighting glows red to signify it's getting warmer. When you make it cooler, it glows blue. In fact, this car comes with 64 different colours of ambient lighting, and you can mix and match throughout the cabin. You can control the passenger seat here from the driver's side, so it's handy. If someone has left it in an annoying position, you can just put it back where you want it. Good old Mercedes, you can store the parcel shelf underneath the false floor. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. That's not going to save it from being chucked in the bushes though. I'm now having to get the parcel shelf back because it's gone really deep into this thorny bush. Ah, it's got my nipple! Oh, I'm now! All but the entry-level 300D version of the GLE get air suspension, and you can raise or lower it by toggling this knob. The towing assistance pack includes a pop-out rear tow hitch like this. It'll also control the car's steering automatically for you when you're trying to reverse a trailer, so it's much easier to do than normally. Okay, so now let's talk about engine choices on this GLE. The range kicks off with a 300D, which is what this car is, and it has a 2-litre 4-cylinder diesel with 245 horsepower, and it can go from 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds. Then there's the 350D, which has a 3-litre straight-six diesel engine with 272 horsepower and can do 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. Then there's the same engine but tuned to 330 horsepower in the 400D, and that can do 0 to 60 in just under 6 seconds. But if you want a petrol, there's the 450, and that has a 3-litre straight-six as well, and that has 370 horsepower, and it can do 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds. There will eventually be a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 in the fire-breathing AMG version of this car, but it's not available yet. Now, all GLEs come with a 9-speed automatic gearbox as standard, and of course all-wheel drive. Now it's time to take the GLE for a test drive, and let's start with what it's like in town. All models, apart from the 300D, get air suspension as standard, though bizarrely this 300D is fitted with air suspension, and you won't be able to get it with it. It'll just be on normal springs and dampers, so a bit of an odd one. What I can tell you though is that the air suspension is brilliant. Really good over speed humps, really good over potholes. I like it a lot. Shame it doesn't come with the 300D. Now the steering is nice and light. One thing I'm not so keen on though are the brakes. So you press the pedal and nothing really happens, and you press a bit more and you suddenly come into a halt. Can't fault the turning circle though. It's not too bad at all for a big SUV. The turning circle is slightly better than a BMW X5 and Audi Q7. One thing that's not quite so good though are the blind spots. So yeah, you sit up high, but you've got a thick pillar there. The view out the back isn't brilliant either, so it can make it a little bit more tricky to get this big thing into a space. Thankfully you can of course use the parking assistance systems such as the sensors and the reversing camera. I love a reversing camera, but looking out that way isn't so good. Right, at least the steering is super light. That really helps. And so you can quite easily just move backwards and forwards until you eventually get it right. But that wasn't too bad at all. It's doable. Anyway, let's see what this thing is like on the motorway. As you'd imagine, this GLE is pretty good over long distances. The seats are sort of firm, but they support you well, which is great. And it's generally quiet, apart from on some surfaces. The tyres do make a little bit of a noise. This 4-cylinder 2-litre diesel engine is okay, but let's say you suddenly need to overtake. I'm doing 50, gearbox actually kicked down really nicely, this 9-speed auto, and I'm at 70. Now, this 2-litre diesel actually has plenty of pulling power if you ask me. The only thing is that it gets a little bit noisy when you're revving it out. I would spend the extra and get the 3-litre 6-cylinder. It's just smoother, and actually in terms of economy you're going to get about the same. So this is doing 30 miles per gallon, and I think that bigger engine will too, because it's just going to be less stressed. Oh, although this isn't a car that really makes you, the driver, feel stressed, which is good. Finally, let's try this big SUV on a twisty road. And the first thing I'm going to do is put it into sports mode, which stiffens up the air suspension, adds a bit of weight to the steering. It kind of holds on all right. Obviously you've got four-wheel drive to help accelerate you out of a corner if it's slippy, that's good. It's not the sharpest thing in the world, but you don't expect it from a Mercedes SUV. It's more than adequate though.
What do you want to do?
Told you, it always chimes in. Just drive, shut up.
Can you say that again, please?
Shut up, go away, cancel, be gone. So then, what's my final verdict on the Mercedes GLE? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should shortlist the Mercedes GLE. Now, I wouldn't pick it if I wanted to use 7 seats all the time, but if you only want them occasionally, or use it mainly as a 5-seater version, it's a really nice, luxurious SUV.